Sinn release a future classic for their birthday. Seiko release another limited edition. Shocker. Vaer go all out with a GMT watch. And Chris and I talk about a very good-looking IWC watch. Welcome back to Casual Watch Talk. You're joined by Sam and Chris. Chris, how have you been?
Excellent. Welcome, everyone.
Cool. Well, should we roll straight into it then?
Absolutely.
We'll kick it off with a... sometimes we do watch obsession, sometimes we do wristwatch check, but I think this week we'll do a wristwatch check, shall we? What do you want to go first?
Yeah, sounds good. We are finishing out our one watch challenge. At least I am. And so wearing my C65 back on the bracelet. Super comfy. And, I always, I say this this is our second year doing this, and it's sort of a cliche where you're like, you're going to learn all about why you like it and why you don't like it if you do this. And I think that is definitely part of the reason why people avoid it, because you're just, you get all the points. But I've got some stuff that I definitely have learned about this one. It's and I won't give it away too much because we're definitely going to have a show on it and have some of our folks over at the Facebook group join us. But the legibility, because it is with the 2 silver dials, if the hour hand is anywhere between the 3 and 9, I have to stare at it like an old man.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've had that problem with chronographs before, I mean, the Daytona, that's what people say about the Daytona, don't they? That the hands can go sort of semi-invisible.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely, it was an interesting experience. And I feel like, it looks so good. But yeah, I have to give it up for some of the other stuff that I have, some of my black dial and my military-inspired stuff. The legibility is just, this is what we're talking about, which is to be able to just glance down and be able to know what time it is at any, so interesting. And there will be more on the month with the C65.
Well, I'm going to be releasing a review. It might be actually before this podcast comes out, but on a very highly legible Luminox that I didn't really like that much. Not because of its legibility, but yeah, because we're doing the one watch challenge, I'm here again with my much loved Christopher Ward. Few people, we've been espousing how good Christopher Ward is for the last couple of weeks, and a few people have commented, how much are Christopher Ward paying you? They're not paying us anything. We want them to pay. We want them to pay us.
Yes. The next time you have Mike on, just, be like, listen,
They don't need to pay us. That's a joke, because we do really love the watches. In fact, a shout out to one of the founders of the company that I worked for, one of the founding members, because he messaged me saying, hey, you're a watch guy. And we got talking. He was like, I've seen this Christopher Ward. And I was like, oh, really? Because if you asked me which was the best value Swiss watch you could buy, that's what I would tell you. So.
Yeah, that's today's answer. Today's answer is definitely that. Well, we played into it a little bit. We knew it was on the nose, and over on the Facebook group, we definitely played into it a little bit. I think Michael was giving us some. He was like, "Is that a Christopher Ward?" Question mark, and you're like, smiley face back and forth. So, well, that's great. Yeah, different strap. Still kind of rocking the same for you.
Yeah, well, I've put it on a Barton band. I mean, these Barton ones are really good. If anybody wants a cheap, we've talked about this before.
We have.
$20.
Yeah, these are the their diver band there. Yeah. So good.
But I have been wearing it mostly on a Frog Squad strap, which is Luke over on the Facebook group. He's making these straps in Australia. Really good. He sent me a prototype of one, which I really liked. The only reason I've not got it on is I just was swapping the strap, but I've been wearing it on that for... It's a new take on a fabric hook and loop type strap. But some of the new... I've got a prototype, but some of the new ones he's made out of nylon look really good. We're going to get him, Chris and I are going to get him on the show when he properly launches.
Nice. Yeah, cool.
Okay, well, shall we have another thrilling episode of Hit or Miss? And this week, I'm not going to be able to hide my feelings of this because I do really like it. So this is, I get in trouble with this name. I want to say Mido, but I think it's Mido.
Mido.
It's a Swatch company. This is their second version of this watch. It's a vintage-inspired watch. They had a watch like this from their vintage originally. They recreated one, I think, was it last year, Chris, they did this, or was it the year before?
Yeah, it was recent, pretty recent.
It's got a decompression scale on it. I'll briefly mention what it does, but they've released it in this tropical colours, but essentially the inner rings on here are decompression times. And so it's got how long you need to wait for decompressing from between 25 and 29 minutes. And then the 30 is between 30 and 34. And then it's 35 to 40. So that they're obviously of zero use. Really,
right. I was
anybody
say,
at the
back in 1961, where we didn't have computers we could wear on our wrist. Yes, correct. This would be the computer that you use.
And then the previous one. I think that this is a really good looking watch. I wouldn't normally, if you said to me, would I wear a watch with lime green, yellow,
turquoise,
and pink on the dial, I would probably question it, but I actually think they've done a very good job of this.
Yeah.
It's a limited edition, and it's this is from Monochrome Watches, I'm reading this. Limited edition to 1961, because it's based on a watch from 1961. So 1,961 pieces, 1,150 euro. So I'm guessing like
pretty decent price.
300. Yeah,
pretty decent price for
ETA 2824.
Yeah, Swiss made 3-hander, with those with the 60s colors. I'm with you, Sam. I feel like the sort of the more the longer I am with as a watch collector, the more the more time has gone by as a watch collector, I feel like the more adventurous I get. It's like this reminds me of some of the Doxa Fun Color Doxa subs that were out there, and they're just like, could you wear a turquoise watch? And part of me definitely is like, maybe. I mean, it definitely, like, if I was down in your neck of the woods, in Florida on the beach,
it has got that Miami vibes to it, hasn't it? The color scheme there.
Yeah, Miami Beach vibe. So I feel like that's and a pretty faithful recreation of the original. I think they did a pretty good job. They had some fun with the bezel color and kind of made it funky, but I say it's a hit. It's a hit.
I agree with you. I think it's a hit as well. So we're gonna go with hit for that one.
All right.
First story is Justin, who's our Rolex AD friend, talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the channel when we did a Tudor video, that there's going to be Tudor boutiques opening in the US, and the first one has in fact opened in New York. And Hodinkee have done, I don't know if they've got a sneak peek of it, but they've been inside it. It looks fantastic inside. They've got
fancy.
Obviously they've got some All Blacks gear on there. It looks really nice. It looks very accessible. They've clearly got all the watches in there. The reason that I mention this as well is that Justin mentioned that the next one is going to be in where I currently live, which is Orlando, Florida. And he's right. I actually took a picture, and I'll just throw it up here. But the local mall, Mayors, is going to be opening the boutique. So there's going to be a Mayors next door to the Tudor boutique. But it's quite a big space that they've got. So I'm really excited. And when they open that Tudor boutique, I'll be first down there doing a live report. I don't know if I'll get invited to the opening, but I'll throw that out there.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think of these? What do you think of these dedicated boutiques, Tudor? And so, do you like going into a dedicated boutique, or do you like a watch shop that has multiple?
I think it's good. I think it's good for them, and I think it's I like it. I like it. And here's why I like it. Because I see this space as a watch meetup space, right? So this, and even if that's not who they're catering to, that's who it feels like they're catering to, and that's totally okay. And so I could definitely get down with bringing a watch roll, 7 p.m., let in the door, enjoying some beverages with like 30, 40 of my watch friends, discussing whatever, obviously talking about Tudor, obviously seeing their new releases. This sort of space, the experience space that I'm starting to see a lot more in companies and marketing and things like that. And I think it's great, and it sort of acknowledges the fact that we want that experience, and for a lot of us right now, that experience is watch collecting. And so, these stories that we, like, oh yeah, Tudor invited us to the unveiling of their new, 2022 or whatever it is, and a bunch of us got together and went down there, and they had champagne and it was amazing. I mean, these sorts of things, that's for them, for the brand, it's really great. And I kind of don't I don't miss that it would be just them, and I would love if other companies did it.
You just got me thinking about a conversation I was having with somebody at work. So somebody at work is into board games, and they said, hey, do you want to come to this board game meetup thing? Now, I know how hardcore what a board game meetup is. There's like some hardcore board game players. And I remember when I was a kid, I was really into the Warhammer board game, but I never played it. I just used to like painting the figures. But I remember that their whole business model was to have people come in and play the game there. And then, and I think you're right. I think watch retailers need to do that more, because a lot of them they do seem inaccessible. I think if you're just a casual, you're just interested in learning about watches perhaps, and you maybe not that confident, or maybe you just don't know what questions to ask. I think making it more accessible, like we saw there, the photos with the bar and things like that, I think, and then you maybe feel less like you're being sold to, and more, hey, this is the experience of these watches and so on. I mean, I think the flip side of it is, the con of this is that this will be likely the end of watch discounts, won't it, from own boutiques? But
well, I guess so. I mean, you can still ask, but yeah, I feel like that's a harder sell. One thing you said that I completely agree with, the approachability of it, and I think with commission retail sales, you come into some of these boutiques and it definitely feels like a commission retail sales car dealership to the max. I mean, you go into it, like if you go into a Coach store with your significant other, it doesn't take you but a second to realize that they're on commission, because there's a 600 square foot store, and there are 7 sales associates in there, and you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. And everyone's super attentive, but you definitely feel like, okay, I don't think I was ready to purchase a $3,000 handbag today, darling. But but so to make it a little more approachable, I totally agree. I'm curious to see how they also branch out. I mean, what is the and for some of these brands, like I guess this sort of naturally happens, but like I would even be interested, if I was Tudor, if I was some of these getting up there luxury brands, I kind of be curious to know what the gateway is. I mean, I think the Swatch Group kind of has the market on this, because they're like, oh yeah, we know you had a Swatch when you were a kid, and so here's a $150 limited edition mechanical Swatch, and you're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I mean, this is literally how I got hooked on mechanical watches, right? And so then you look and you're like, oh, and we have these other brands, when you're ready to, get something more and like kind of step into it. So sort of interesting how they take the guy off the street who may, just, not have any interest in it, and get him to a watch boutique sort of night.
Yeah. And we've mentioned this before on the podcast, where it was a long time ago, but I think this is might be an unintended consequence of Rolex's supply issues, because you're missing a generation of people that got Rolexes for an anniversary or a special occasion. TJ, who, you know, good friend to the show, who's trying to buy a Rolex for his wife, is not able to get the one that he necessarily wanted immediately. And you're missing that, where people are like, oh, it is attainable when you achieve something, a promotion at work, but you just can't get it anyway. So I wonder if they'll miss that generation of, oh, their dad had a Rolex, or, you know, granddad had a Rolex, and that's what I aspire to. I mean, who knows? Story, let's dive in here. You spotted this, and I agree with you. This is just a fantastic release from Sinn for their anniversary. So I'll flash it up here. The Sinn website, though, I always have a little chuckle. It's so unbecoming of how high quality the watches are. The website looks just awful. But anyway,
I mean, yeah, it's basic. It's super basic. They have like a few photos of it. It's pretty funny. I take it to like, there are certain car companies that do not spend any money on their interior, and they're like fancy interior bits, but like the drivetrain is bulletproof. This is what Sinn's all about. The drivetrain is bulletproof, but they did not spend $250,000 on a website. So, yes, this is the 103 Classic 12 that they are releasing for their 60th anniversary, and I am totally in love, and I am kind of kicking myself. I would love to get my hands on one of these. They are a little up there in price, but based on past performance, so I think they're going for, I think I saw like 3,800. So based on sort of past performance, I have a feeling that this will be, you know, won't necessarily dive in price. Like there won't be I think this will be worth the price. But again, a $3,800 chronograph that's you know, that's not going to be unless I get a big promotion where I could maybe buy afford a fancy luxury watch.
Have you seen this? This watch is already sold out in direct sales. So I wonder if watch buyers or someone has actually bought the whole.
Did I? Oh, geez. Maybe we already missed the boat. I mean, so one of the questions I had, we were talking at the last watch meet about how many they had, and so it's limited 600. But somebody was like, "Is that limited 600 for the world?" The fact that it's already sold out. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks since it was announced, so maybe I missed out on this one. But what a watch! So it was kind of our start of our. They announced that at the Geneva Watch Days, and we'll be talking about that in a bit.
For the next story, I wanted to do a little shout out to one of my favorite micro brands, which is Vaer. Chris and I have had Ryan and Reagan on the show. I just think they're doing great things with watches. The watches range, as you can see here, from $160 up to $500. They're actually going to be releasing soon, and if you're on their VIP mailing list, you'll get to see it, and I'll flash up a picture here, but they're going to be doing a GMT. So they actually have a little survey here, which variation you like as you go through to pre-order it. So it's a dateless GMT. My view on date, I love having the date on a watch. I normally love everything that Vaer do. I have actually reviewed this D5 Tropic, which is one of my favorite watches that I own. And they're going to be releasing a GMT. So it's a little step up for them. I think that it looks pretty good. I'll flash up a picture here of one of the ones that's in the email. It shows that they're kind of going up market a little bit as well as having, and they've probably got the most complete range of a micro brand. They have the quartz watches, they have military inspired watches, they've got a Dirty Dozens inspired watch, and then they've got their dive watches as well, and they do a lot with, they're very sea focused or ocean focused, I should say, the surface.
Yeah. And we have definitely mentioned one of the things about them is they've moved into that gradually. Whereas we've seen some micro brands just kind of lay out the 15 types of watches that you know without sort of like working towards it. Whereas here I feel like, you know, they started with the super waterproof field watch quartz, and then they started, and then were like, oh, would you buy it if it had a mechanical, and really moved into it. So it's good to see their sort of process. So this GMT, how much do you think they're asking for it?
They're doing a pre-order price. It's going to retail for $1,200, and it's going to be shipping in November. Okay. They do have a pre-order price. I think you have to sign up to the email to get the pre-order price, which is less.
That does seem a pretty big jump for them for their pricing. It does,
yeah. But they're using, unlike other micro brands that are favoring Sellita, which I really like Sellita movements. They're doing ETAs, so it's a GMT, an ETA powered GMT movement for.
Oh, okay. That must okay. Maybe that's okay. I suspect that's maybe just what it is, because they were, yeah, and they were pretty open on their pricing and stuff. So I mean, if they can only get, or if they want to get that better ETA GMT, then they can they'll have to pay a little bit more to get that, kind of pass that on to you, but certainly might be worth it.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's quite cool that they're actually getting the ETA movements. Well, let's move on to our next story. And speaking of crap websites, as we were just talking about with Sinn, Seiko's website is just awful for showcasing watches. So, but this really took me. This one, it's a limited edition yawn. But monochrome watches, again, had some great photos of it. And this dial is going to be absolutely spectacular on this Prestige. And then this, I think they're calling that the Alpinist, aren't they? Or the original Alpinist.
Or the Presage, not the Prestige,
right?
Presage.
Oh, I'm thinking of that film with...
That's right.
I'm thinking of the film.
That's right. Saw some stuff dial. Saw some stuff on Instagram that the dial is cool. The dial is cool. And then was talking about it with some folks, and if you dislike the Prospex logo, that's the only sort of for that particular watch. It kind of hits you. That Prospex logo is just kind of punched in the middle. Now over on the Presage, looks like they've got an open heart movement on it. So. Not too bad.
I see what you mean about the Perspex logo, because it's not quite centered, is it, on the pattern?
It's centered, but it's there. It's just their little X logo that, because it denotes, it's their demarcation for like their diver. Yeah, professional specification, exactly. Yeah, but like for this watch, It's hotly debated over for the Alpinist. So the newer Alpinist has the Prospex logo on it, and it's tough to, if, like I said, it's like one of those things where like if it bothers you, it bothers you. If it doesn't bother you, then it's fine. But I think the dial looks great and can overcome a little thing like that.
Yeah, exactly. And these are limited editions again. I wonder if it's got the prices on here. I've got a feeling that they're not too brutal. So the one of them is €590.
Okay.
Which is that open heart one.
Oh, really? Okay. All right. That's, for a Presage with that dial, $590. Okay. Knowing what I know about their movements, the open heart doesn't excite me, but that's okay. I can excite someone else.
I was chatting to not the boss, but another colleague at work who's just got into watches, and because one of his friends was taking the mick out of him because he had an Apple Watch.
Oh,
and he so they've actually trying to get him to buy a watch. Who's been asking me, really likes white dials. And instead of me I gave him a few recommendations, a Christopher Ward, and then he really liked the Presage. But I said to him that he should come on the show, or we should do a live stream with him, invite a couple of people on who who maybe people pick two watches. White dial less than $1,200 is his only
Yep. I know. I've got one. I've got one ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. So he, and then we'll present them to him. Not that he has to make a choice on the day, but it would be.
Oh no, we're going to make him make a choice. No, for sure. He doesn't actually have to go get one, but he has to make a choice. I think that'd be good. And a little, you know, what's interesting? I'd like to do a little Apple Watch tangent, if we could. Yeah. And you mentioned it. I found out something interesting that maybe we hadn't considered when we look at the numbers of the sales of Apple Watches compared to Swiss. I mean, this is everyone does, you know, we've seen this blog article 20 times, you know.
Well, and the Apple keep mentioning it on their keynote, don't they?
Oh yeah, they love it. Yeah, they're like, we outsell. Okay. Yeah, here's the thing though. Little asterisk here that we should mention. So I wanted to pick up a used Apple Watch to use in my advertising for my watch strap company. I know I'm a trader. I know, but at least it was. I went to eBay, and I figured I'm going to buy, you know, one of the earlier series. They're pretty inexpensive, and you know, I just needed. Yeah, basically, it just has to be for the photo shoot, and you know, to display. We have a 2-piece, and we have the Apple Watch. I'm fine with selling watch straps to Apple Watch folks. That's fine. In any case, so I picked up a Series 2 for about $130 on eBay.
Okay.
Not too bad. And got to me right away. Fantastic. Connected it. I have a iPhone for work, so proceeded to attempt to turn it on. So you turn it on. This is the first thing that really shocked me that I didn't know this. I'm an IT guy. I didn't know this. You cannot do anything with that watch unless it is paired with a phone. Full stop. Like,
yes, to set it up, yeah.
To set it up, to get it going, like it has to connect to so people that are like, "Oh, well, it's only $600." You're like, "Yeah, well, it's only $600 connected to your $900 phone or your $1,000 tablet." Okay, all right. So all right. So Series 2 came out in 2017. Too old. So I tried to pair it with my iPhone 8, and it asked for a software update, and it was like, "Oh, I got to do the software update." And they're like, "Okay." And then it went into this like weird software loop. Okay. I'll too long didn't read the story. Wrap this up. I brought the watch to an Apple store and was like, "Please upgrade this to the latest version of Apple Watch." And they're like, "We can't, and it won't work with your phone if we do."
Yeah, they do that, this forced obsolescence. I've got an iPad that can no longer sync.
Right. So what I want everybody to do is the next time we see their keynote or the next time we see their blog that says, "Oh, we outsold all the..." Okay. So see this watch? This watch, if I don't massively damage it, will be running long after I'm gone. And can be passed down to generations and can be repaired by next generations and generations after that. And so how much of their watch sales are because in basically 3 years, it's no good anymore. And what really chapped me was they offered me $25 in an upgrade. And I paid $130 for it, and I was just like,
"Yeah, it's funny that I know there's a big right to repair and everything, isn't there?
Right.
There's the class action lawsuits go, and the people wonder. Somebody actually asked me whether it would affect the Rolex or some of the watch companies. Like, will they be forced right to repair to send parts to watchmakers, or if you ask for a part,
to make the parts available? I mean, in some cases, yeah, to make the parts available. There are certain states where the right to repair laws are stronger. Massachusetts, for example. So yeah, I found this interesting. So yeah, with this sort of software obsolescence, you know, it's like how, you know, 40% of that number, whatever that number is. Like if you're someone who bought the first Apple Watch and now you're into the technology, and you need it on your wrist, and you do it for notifications or whatever you use, and it stops functioning. You're obviously going to get another one, and so then that goes into new sales and new sales. So I was like, it just made me frustrated with the whole thing, but it also kind of gave me some insight that I'm sharing to you guys here, which is like, keep in mind that their sales are kind of forced, whereas like, if you're lucky enough to get, or if you invest in or purchase a really nice Swiss luxury watch, German, Japanese, whatever luxury watch, should last an absolute lifetime, and doesn't have to affect a marketing sales spreadsheet.
Well, let's dive into another story, and this was another pick from you, another maybe future icon chronograph like the Sinn was, and that's the curious case of the Space IWC watch.
Yeah, this popped up over in our Facebook group, and I had seen it as well. What I was looking for specifically, so white, I think it's a white, either white ceramic or it's a white case. Looks really good.
Yeah, it looks really good.
But the first thing I went to look for, Sam, is to see if they actually flew.
Yeah, so this was this designed for the civilian space flight that just went up?
So
it's just landed actually yesterday.
Yep, successful up and back. Who wants to spend a weekend in space? So Inspiration 4 for basically citizen, private citizen astronauts. And this group, I think, was a better, was better than the billionaire to space race that we had a couple of months ago, because this group was someone who, made money, but flies jets, so is a pilot, and is philanthropic, giving back to charity. This whole mission was basically a fundraiser, which is really cool. A cancer survivor. A payload specialist, and a woman who trained to be an astronaut but didn't get into the program. So great, interesting group of four folks, two guys, two girls, and they were up higher than the International Space Station. So they beat Jeff Bezos' record. They beat Branson's record. I can't wait for some of the pictures. If you haven't seen some of the pictures, like the Earth looks like a sphere. I mean, that's how high they were, which is pretty cool. The key with this is I saw this watch and I said, oh, this is amazing. And the first thing we did, and we did this when the first SpaceX Crew Dragon went up, we were looking for, we were watch spotting, looking for someone's Omega. I couldn't see it. So if any of you listening saw that any of the astronauts were wearing this, any of the Inspiration 4 crew had this on, I could not find it. Maybe we'll be able to spot it in the Netflix documentary, but kind of hoping that it actually flew.
Yeah, and if you look on IWC's website, they've not really made a song and dance about it on their own website. I thought this was interesting that they're doing the Blue Angels over the Citizen. Citizen traditionally do Blue Angels, but they've not really. You would think it would be splashed all over the front page. And you're right. I watched some of that news footage, and there was footage of them in the capsule and things, and I couldn't see this watch on their wrist at all.
My take on it is, there's a very iconic Fortis picture of the Fortis cosmonaut. And it's floating basically in the cupola of the International Space Station. And that's what I want to see. And so it's funny, I will compare that watch to their like Mars Explorer watch, where they, we kind of talked about it on here, where they're like, eventually when they go to Mars, that'll be the watch they pick. Well, right now, I would rather have the same exact model of watch that flew in space currently than sort of a future Mars mission watch. And I feel like if this watch actually flew in space, then it's got some street cred from the space nerds. But if not, to kind of celebrate the flight is cool. but it kind of takes it down from the coveted Space Watch realm that we all love to talk about.
Well, next story, and Chris, you brought this to my attention because I honestly didn't know that this was happening. I don't know how I didn't know. Nobody seemed to make a song and dance about it, but there was a fairly big... I mean, the London Watch Show was on as well, so a big shout out to everyone that was there. I know Paul Thorpe was one of the people to arrange that, and by all accounts, it seemed like that went off very well. I saw a lot of people blogging from there. Tim Wright was doing live streams. It looks really interesting. I'm going to be exciting this week to see all the photos that come out of the... and I know a few fans of this channel went as well, so big shout out to John and a few other people that I think went. But this was, I would have shown the website for that, but there's not many photos uploaded yet. Maybe next week we'll do a bit more of an in-depth one on that. But this one that I flew under the radar for me was the Geneva watch days.
Yeah. And let's talk about it. Part of the reason why I feel like it might have gone under the radar is this is our first year with no Baselworld. So, I mean, the sad Baselworld website that we were just at, checking that out. But this is their sort of replacement for it, or, one of the shows. Now, Geneva Watch Days, they had a smaller subset.
They're like a decentralized event where it was in multiple locations.
Yeah, and a smaller set of vendors, or should I say, watch manufacturers. So Breitling was there, Bulgari,
MB&F,
Ulysse
Nardin,
yeah. So it was interesting. I noticed some stuff come out of it, specifically Breitling.
And just looking on the website now, it seemed like Breitling were really advertising their top time watches.
Yeah. So these are 3 new chronographs, and they're really honing in on the market. I mean, I think they're dialing in the market for this stuff. So it's the Shelby Cobra, the Corvette, and the Mustang. So they got these 3 new chronographs that they released. These sort of fun colors: red, blue, green, and they're based on the car color for these vintage race cars. The Mustang in green, definitely
beautiful,
cool. Yeah. We've said this. We sort of watched this over the last couple of years. I mean, Breitling it feels like a different company now.
I totally agree. I think they're doing some. I'm glad they're experimenting and doing some good things. I really like my Breitling B1, but you're right, they're definitely going away from the more chunkier... I mean, and they're not going away, they still sell the more chunkier watches, but they're definitely going into this vintage-inspired watches, and they're doing a great job, the vintage-inspired Navitimers. These beautiful colours that they did, I think you're right, I think they're doing some fantastic things at the moment.
I interesting. Like they're experimenting more with the ladies' watches. I mean, I just really want to point that out because I feel like there's a lot of manufacturers who, they'll take a design and they'll make it 34 millimeters and put some diamonds on it and call it the ladies' watch. And that's not what Breitling's doing here. Breitling is like, hey, maybe you want to wear a chronograph. Maybe you want to wear a green chronograph, or a little bit more fun color of the diver, or the different styles they have. So good for them, because I think that market is untapped.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the ladies' watches is untapped, and I think that Rolex should really do. I think they would have a runaway success with a smaller Submariner, like a ladies' version of the Submariner. I've often heard that. And
there's a thing where women will wear men's watches, and it's like known as like the boyfriend watch, where the kind of the style is the larger. So like a woman wearing like a 44 millimeter watch, this sort of style. I think they should go into that. They should pour into that, because they're missing out there. Like, I think the days of the dainty 30 millimeter oval. You know, my wife's not interested in that. You know, she was, you know, she's going to be in the lab, she's wearing a G-Shock. And if she's out, she's going to have a fun color watch on. And yeah, not really. And then for dress, it's going to be something, you know, she likes, that's, you know, that's kind of her style.
Especially some of the Rolex watches. I worked with a lady who had a Kermit, and she loved it, and it looked awesome. The only problem she had was that there wasn't enough links that they could take out of the bracelet. So it was still quite larger, and that was her complaint. She was like, "Yeah, they just couldn't." And the size looked awesome on her, obviously.
Yeah, they need to do that that shrunken bracelet, you know, where it doesn't need to open up to be like a diver's extension. It just needs, because you're just like it's only so big, you know. So that would be perfect.
Well, shall we round the show out with? I thought this was quite an interesting article on a blog to watch. Well, the article wasn't interesting, it's just it made me think. They're doing a limited edition watch stand. So they've got it's marble, and it's got their their branding on it. And so I'm surprised how Dinky hasn't done something like this. I'm sure they have. I have something like this. I have a little wooden stand that I put my watch on. But it got me thinking, Chris, what non-watch strap accessories, should we say? Because obviously watch straps. What non-watch strap accessories do you have? I mean, I could probably kick this off. I use this, which was actually very kindly sent into the store. It's a Mirage luxury travel case, they call it, but it's a watch roll, but I keep all my watches in it. The cool thing with it is, if I show you here, you pull out you pull them out, they're kind of slotted in there. So they've got like a ridged slot, and then you just, they don't move around in there. They slot in. Oh,
okay. Oh, they're indexed in the actual case. Yeah, so it's not
like where you pull the whole thing out and then you have to move the watches back and forth.
Yeah, or if they were loose, they'd kind of tumble out.
Exactly. Yeah, or if they were not. Yes, that's right. They would tumble out, but these are notched. And this isn't very expensive. They sent me this in, so this is a little
nice
paid promotion thing you'll see at the top. But they sent me this in. I think they're only like $70, but they do them in different colours as well. So a little plug for Mirage luxury travel. So I have this. I have a watch roll, and then I have that little watch stand. That it's a wooden watch stand. I'll throw up a picture. I got it on Amazon for like $12 or something, but it looks pretty cool.
What do you have? Where do we leave off on the winders? Do you have a winder? Did you end up with one?
I haven't got a watch winder. I go back and forth on. You hear there's conspiracy theories about them, isn't there? That it wears out the watch, but I don't know whether. I mean, you're more of an engineer. Yeah. What do you think on that one?
Yeah. So I mean, sort of the take that I have is we have modern synthetic lubricants in these watches. If it says it's good for 10 years, it's good for 10 years, whether it's, you know, winding around. It really comes down to convenience. So it's like some of the harder to set watches, such as like a calendar, you know, perpetual calendar, something like that, or moon phase, something that's, you know, just like where you could mess it up setting it. It's probably a good idea to just, if you want to wear that all the time and just have that ready to go, then it's probably a good idea to throw it on. And then if you're not going to wear it if you don't think you're going to wear it for a while, like it's, you know, the dead of winter or something, then, you know, take it off the winder. Fine. I have one, but it's kind of, it gets like months of use and then I don't use it for months, and then months of use and I don't use it. Like sometimes I'll have like a watch on deck. I mean, for example, like right now, feel like the watch box is dead because I haven't seen another watch in, you know, 28 days. But you know, if I've got something in rotation, or, you know, like if I'm wearing something that I'm enjoying and then I know I'm going to wear it later for work or whatever, just pop it on the winder and then not have to sit there and crank on it, kind of thing. No, I think it's good. But again, it really comes down to like convenience. Like, you know, if you're wearing a watch for a week, or if you're maybe switching one out, you know, I love the the heartache that we have to go through to play with our, fun little mechanical devices for 20 minutes to set them. You're like, it's part of the charm. So
I think I've never seen that much I've never myself. I actually have been offered a number of times to be sent one in for review, and I've always declined it because I never really liked them enough to get one. And don't they say that you have to get a decent quality one, because if you have it in your bedroom, they can be quite loud.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And then that price point is high. Like when they, if you're on Amazon and they're like, they're silent, they're probably not silent. There's like a worm gear that's like, and at 2:00 in the morning, you or your significant other are going to go and throw things at it. And then your watch will really be in danger of being actually damaged and not by the winder. So you have to get into a decent price point, in order to get something that's truly silent. For me, this was actually a surprise. You had sent me, I'm just going to shout out to Detroit Mint, because you sent me this little guy here, little watch roll here. They just kind of threw in there, and immediately I love this color.
Yeah, it's really good, isn't it?
Good job.
Yeah, that's a good little side note, actually. Dave at Detroit Mint has done a mechanical version of his Bullhead chronograph. It's on pre-order at the moment with the Seagull movement in there at $475, which is... then he's going to be doing another couple of other versions as well. But I really like the quartz version of this. But you're right, these come in... I think these ones come in a watch roll as well, but it is a nice watch roll that he provides with these. Yeah, it's like super surprised. Yeah, I was like, yeah, so good for him to like. And I think he had mentioned it when he was on the show that he had sort of picked out the materials and stuff, because it definitely shows. You get some of these brands that'll come in and just like this. They give you a watch roll, but it's like an afterthought, and it's like this like smelly fake leather or whatever. And so as far as other like tools, it's interesting, like even being someone that mods and tinkers with watches, I think for anyone in the hobby, definitely get yourself a good spring bar tool. Something from maybe even Bergeron, if I had to like pick a brand, something that from a Swiss watch tool manufacturer, that the pin for the removal is like actually tool steel hardened and not made of pressed magnesium. Yeah, it's
or
amazing
whatever.
How they bend,
the
isn't
cheap
it?
ones are.
Scratch your watch. And another shout out to Dave at Detroit Mint, who included quite a decent one in the
nice
in the watch roll that I got. I think he sent me one over as like a promo. Nice. Device. They're really good quality, but you're right. Yeah, I've got that, and then I've got the ones that look like tweezers. Sort of hit or miss, I think, with the ones with the tweezers for me. Yeah.
Just something, and then the last thing for me is just some good magnification. So just like even a set of the like inexpensive loop, something. I have one on my nightstand all the time, because it just, you're struggling with it. And it's like, even if your eyes are 20-year-old eyes, I mean, you're down to 20 millimeters. It's super tiny, super hard to see, but get some, so yeah, into the box, a little magnification, and then a decent spring bar tool, I would say, is a must. And for me, the last thing would be, I had to combine. I have like my everyday carry stuff. So whatever watch box I got was never going to be big enough for either all of that or all my. So I ended up just kind of rolling my own. Kind of did like I took an IKEA glass door that I bought like as a remnant, on sale as their like parts from their parts bin. And then sort of built it with the hinges and built it into a watch box. I'll see if I can grab a picture of that. And so that for two reasons: glass, so that I could maybe charge up my solar watches, at least from the ambient. I know it's not at the best. Maybe I should put some more some more UV LEDs in there or whatever. But also to have this, like I said, to have the space to kind of expand. Because as we both know, whatever size of watch box you purchase, you will have that many watches.
Well, guys, let us know over on the Facebook group if you've got any other suggestions from that. The Facebook group is really growing at the moment, and please put in a request to join. Just a little word of warning on this is that a couple of people have kindly put in a request to join and they forgot to agree to the rules. So just agree to the rules and we'll welcome you in. But there's some great conversation happening.
We'll have no problem if you do that. Yeah.
As always, guys, we really appreciate you watching and listening, and we'll see you next time on Casual Watch Talk. Thanks, guys. Bye.